Okay, put it up. Okay, now you got me?
Yep.
Okay. Ready? So we're up to the Mishnah. Oh, by the way, my brother Yisrael had a good hour with yesterday when we were learning about the Gemara that says that you should buy the vegetables that are very long. Right? You should buy them because they sell them in bunches and get the long ones. You get more money, your money's worth. So the cucumbers in Costco, he says he always thinks that he should make sure he measures to get the longer cucumbers. You know how they sell them in Costco? They sell them as a 3-pack.
Yeah, all the Jews are always measuring it.
Is that true? I never thought that Costco is a practical example of this, but hey, that's what he said on Shabbos.
It's like the avocado. Make sure to get the biggest ones.
Right, that's what the Gemara says to do. Anyway, okay, so now today,
Landau, when it says 6 mangoes for $5.99, doesn't mean you could throw a 7th one in there and try to sneak it by.
Don't worry, those guys at the door will catch it.
Anyways, okay. So Zog the Mishnah, yeah? We're on the Mishnah on the bottom of Mem Amud Beis. So we're doing a lot of Muktza tonight, but tonight's a relatively easy daf. So Garfin Mefnei Petam, you're allowed to scoop away the food from in front of you're putting it in, you have this ox just eating and stuffing his mouth, right? So basically what you want to do is you want to move away the junk, the dung, I guess, from in front of it. And you're allowed to move it to the sides because of the ray, because of the dung. So the Tanakh said 2 dinim there. It said you're allowed to sweep from in front of it, and you can move it to the side. The Chachamim asers, the Gemara is going to ask, because the Chachamim disagree with both cases or just one. Yeah? You're allowed to take from one behema and put it in front of another behema on Shabbos, meaning the food that's by one behema, you're allowed to take it and put it into another behema. Yeah? Are you still with me, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So they had a shaila. Rabbanan are Reisha pligi, or are Seifa pligi? Are the Rabbanan disagreeing with the Reisha or the Seifa, or are Tavayu pligi? Or they're arguing with both cases. The Toshima, the Tanya, Chacham Mayrim, Echad Zeh, Echad Zeh, Lo Yisakenu L'Tzadim. Both cases, the Chacham say you should not push the stuff, the dung, to the side. Right? So they say, I just went out. So Amar Rav Chisda, Machlokes be'eva shel karka. The machlokes is by a trough, by the karka. But be'eva shel kli, divrei hakol mutter. But the avos of the kli, everybody holds that that's mutter.
Should try to do it.
Right? Be'eva shel karka mi'ika, the man deshari. If it's the trough made on the ground, is there anybody that holds this mutter? Or kamashri gumus, when you're going to be sweeping the ground, so you're going to end up smoothing it out, and therefore you're going to be over on Hashvuya Gumus. Elayit, what's the problem?
Chayrish?
Well, it depends where it's going to be. It could either be not Chayrish, or if it's in a house, well, it's not really in a house, and it could be Baina. Yeah, so Elayit Marhochiyit. Rav Chisda Machlokes be'eva shel kli. Be'eva shel karka divrei hakol osur. The whole machlokes is by a kli, but by karka, everybody holds it's osur. Yeah? Fine. So you're allowed to take it from in front of a behema, meaning you're allowed to take some food in front of one behema, put into food into another behema. The Tanakh had the noitim lefnei behema shapia yafa, the noitim lefnei behema shapia ra. You're allowed to take it from in front of an animal whose mouth is nice and put it in front of an animal whose mouth is bad. Now we're going to see in the Gemara exactly what that means. The Tanya Yidach noitim lefnei behema shapia ra, and noitim lefnei behema shapia yafa. In another Bryce, it says the opposite. You can take it from an animal who has a bad mouth and put it into the animal in front of an animal that has a nice mouth. That's not the way they talk, right? It's not about whether they have a clean mouth or not a clean mouth, whether they use swear words or not. Right? So Amar Abaye, they both Bryces hold that you're allowed to take it from in front of a chamor and put it in front of a shar. Right? But in front of a shar, you can't put it in front of the chamor. the one price that says you're allowed to take it from an animal who has a clean mouth, and that's talking about a chamor the less lo riri. It doesn't have like saliva. But nice, meaning it's not drooling all over its food. The nice and behema shapira, the para the is, and now on to the next Amud, but para the is lo riri, and that's talking about putting in front of a para that does have a lot of drool. And this that we say you're allowed to take it from an animal whose mouth is bad. Right? It's talking about a chamor that's doesn't care about what it eats. Right? So since it's going to put its mouth on everything, so it's going to disgust the other animal. That's called putting it in front of a para who is very careful with what it eats. So therefore, basically what they're both saying, that there's no machlokes between the prices. It's just a difference of the way they describe what bad and good is. But at the end of the day, from a chamor to a shor, what do we say? From a chamor, how do we say it? Right, from a chamor, you're not allowed to put to a shor, but a shor you could put to a chamor. Right, meaning we're not going to consider it Muktza. Yeah, fine. Okay, Zok the Mishna. This is actually an important Mishnah b'negeya to Hilchos Muktza. So you have hakash al gabi amita. So you have straw on the bed, right? So you want to spread out the straw to be able to sleep on the bed. The problem is that straw is Muktza, right? So how can you spread out the straw? So you say hakash al gabi amita lo yinanenu b'yadoi. You cannot move it around with your hand. You can't shake it around with your hand. Elamananei b'gufay. You're allowed to move it around with your guf. That is the controversial Rashi right here. Rashi says, Layana b'yada is the muktahu, but you can be manea b'gufa, b'kseifa, with your shoulders. Meaning you lay down on the bed and you move the straw around with your shoulders. So the thing is that what we actually discussed this last week or 2 weeks ago with muktzah. There's two different types of ways to move muktzah. There's one with a shinui, and then there's tilta b'gufay, right? So Rashi, now tilta begufay is meaning if I'm going to actually use a different part of my body to move the muktza. That's okay in all situations, right? But doing with a shinui is not necessarily good unless it's for my sake, not the sake of the muktza, right? So here it's really for the sake of the muktza that you want the straw to be moving all over the bed. So Rashi calls it tilta min hatzadhu. Right, that's not tiltum and atzad is normally just moving something from the side, but here it's being mananea with the kuf. So basically, these terms are interchangeable. The bottom line is again from this we learn out that's why when we said when something muktzah gets delivered to your house on Shabbos and you're afraid it's going to get stolen, so you're allowed to kick it into your house. Right, it's also based on this Mishnah. But if you had this straw was really you were planning on feeding it to an animal, or you had a pillow or a sheet on it, which means that it was already prepared from the day before, then you already know that the straw is not muktzah. So therefore, you can actually be mananeh the yada with your hand. Right? Then a totally unrelated case, michvah shel balibatim matirin. That's a press. A press that presses the food. A balibatim is mutar of a loy kavshin, but you cannot. You're allowed to remove the clothing from the press, but you're not allowed to press it on Shabbos. But if it's a professional one from people that wash, right, then you're not allowed to. So Yehuda, because that's nobody had it in mind. It's meant for business. If it was untied, doesn't mean mutter. If it was untied before Shabbos, then mater is kulei b'shamti. Then what you can do is you can be mater it and then slip it out from there without touching, without moving the muktzah part. Okay.
Why does the Mishnah change? Why does the Mishnah change the lashon here? Usually by muktzah it says you can't move it. Here lo yigaboy.
Oh yeah, yes. Thank you for reminding me. That is a very big shaila here, because which part are you asking about?
Why does it say don't touch it?
Because why? Because you're saying muktzah you're allowed to touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big shaila. It's a big shaila that the Mefarshim ask. Right? Now, because Rashi is not going with muktzah here. Right? Rashi's calling. I talked about it for muktzah because that's what other Rishonim say, but Rashi is actually saying that it's meant to be. If you're afraid that you're gonna stick it in bechazaka, you're gonna, like we said before, that's some sort of tikkun. That's what we're worried about. So therefore, it's surely. Therefore, it's Rashi. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it actually makes less sense because it's only that you can't move it, not that you can't touch it. But yeah, the Mefarshim discussed this because basically what he's asking is that muktzah lemaisa you're allowed to touch. Muktzah is only an issue to move, not to touch. Okay, yeah. So Amar Rav Nachman, Hai Pugla. We had this Gemara before. Hai Pugla milamala lamata shari milamata lamala asa. So if you have a pugla, right? So a radish is thin on the top, thin on the bottom. Well, I don't know which one is the top, which is the bottom. You have one end of it is, I think that's considered the bottom, right? You have one end of it is thin, one end of it is thick. So now you buried it in the ground. It's obviously talking about when it's detached, because if it's still attached, you're obviously not allowed to take it on Shabbos. All right. So what are you doing? You are, so you just hit it in the ground to keep it fresh, right? Because it's much colder in the ground. So you want to keep it fresh or make sure that it doesn't rot. So if it's in the ground from lamala lamata shari, then you're allowed to pull it out. Lamata lamala also, but if you put from the bottom to the top, then it's awesome. Yeah. Now, why is that? Because when you put it in with the thin part, so then when you pull it up, you're not moving any dirt. When you put it in backwards and the wider part is facing down, then when you pull it up, you're going to be moving dirt, which is muktza. That's moving muktza from the side, right? So again, Hai pugla milamala lamata shari, milamata lamala also. We learn not like Rav Nachman. That's why Hakasha Gabi Amita. If you have straw on the bed, you're not allowed to move with your hands. You move with your goof. And if it's a Michael Behema, or if there's a pillow on it, then you're allowed to move it with your hands. So you see from this, right, that you're allowed to move the straw with your body, even though it's muktzah. So tiltum and atzad is not considered muktzah, shma midah, right? So basically, our Mishna is saying that we have no problem with you moving muktzah. So, what's wrong if you pull out a radish from the ground and then the dirt collapses, right? There's no problem with that. Yeah. So therefore, this is obviously different than Rav Nachman. Fine. I'll review the hani tupuli, right? These peppers made the shari. If you're going to cut it up one at a time, right, with the kata the sakina, with the handle of a knife, then it's mutter. Party also, but to do two at a time, that's also. And now this is talking about a total different subject. It's about teich and grinding, right? So I think we mentioned it last week also, right? So grinding, as long as you do it differently, grinding is only things from the ground, right? Things that are not from the ground is not a problem. So pepper is from the ground, so you have to do it in a way that you're not actually grinding it up in the way you do it during the weekday. So therefore, if you do one at a time and you do it with the handle of the knife, which is obviously not the regular way that you do it, right, then that's mutter. But to do two is awesome, right?
It's mutter
Yeah.
or pater?
If one, what?
It's mutter or pater?
No, what do you mean? One at a time is mutter. Two at a time is awesome. It's one at, yeah, what's bothering you?
Pater amalotza or mutter?
No, mutter. Shari means mutter. Shari means mutter. Right?
What's the chiddush?
Nah, what's the chiddush?
Did you say cutting small? What did you say? So you
Yeah,
can't make Israeli salad on Shabbos?
Oh, very good. Correct. Israeli, what the shaila is, Israeli salad is a good shaila. Which one? What can you do it? Can you not do it? Right? Israeli salad is that too small? There's absolutely no shot in Shulchan Aruch or anywhere in how small is too small. But really, grinding means you're grinding up to make it into a powder. Right? But Lamaisa, we say that even cutting it into very small pieces is also a problem.
Okay.
Right?
What's the issue? What's the issue?
What?
What's the issue?
Grinding. Grinding is the issue. So, but grinding is one of the more unique halachos in Hilchos Shabbos, that if lechatchila you're allowed to do it with a shinui. If you do it with two shinuyim, then you are allowed to even lechatchila do it. Right? Which is what he's saying here. You're doing it one at a time, and you're doing it with the handle of the thing, the handle of a knife. So therefore, it's two shinuyim. Therefore, it's mutter to do. What are you saying?
These pilpulin are peppercorns?
Yes, as far as I think so.
So this is
what
mamish tyson. No, I'm saying
A red pepper, a green pepper, no?
No, I think it means. I don't think it means the vegetable pepper. It means the spice.
Yeah, it's a spice, peppercorns. So this is mamish tyson. He's mamish grinding it into a powder.
Yeah.
That's the chiddush here.
Well, you're doing it, but you're doing it with two shinuis, because you're only doing one pepper at a time, and you're doing it with the back of the knife.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's very interesting about the malach of Teichen, because for whatever reason, the Chachamim said, as long as you do it with two shinuyim, then it's going to be mutter to do on Shabbos. Right? That's Rabbi Yehuda. He's more machmer. Rava is more maker. Rava markivin de meshani afilu tuvanami. As long as you're doing the shinui, then even more than that. Right?
I mean, if you do it with two shinuyim, it's mutter lechatchila.
Correct. And Rob is saying even one shinui.
What do you need to do with a shinui for?
No, because otherwise it's a deraisa of Teichen, of grinding.
Then why is it a mutter lechatchila? It should be potter.
Right. You're saying shinui normally we do is it's shatzat, it's a derabbanan, right? Which is normally also, right? But yeah, so for whatever reason, the Chacham said by Teichen they allow shinui even lechatchila. Yeah, that's what it is. That's the halacha. It's only. I think it's the only malacha that we allow this. Yeah.
Halacha, that's how we pass on halacha.
What? Yes, we pass like this. 100% we pass like this. Yes. Yeah. So afilu tuvanami. So Rabbi says if you're doing with a shina, even allowed also. Someone of Yehuda man desachi b'maya, then a new thing. Somebody who's soaking in water, meaning he's going into the ocean or a river to get wet. So the nagid nashri bereisha v'hadul salak. He should dry himself off first and then leave the water. Why? Because if he's going to have water on him, he's going to be carrying the water talaramis and a karmelis. So Gemara says nami kadachi. So then, if that's the case, when he's going into the water, also he's pushing water, right? Water is a karmelis. You're not allowed to carry it without an eruv, right? So he's going to end up pushing it. Right? So the Gemara says, I'm sorry, I stopped too early. So his koyach is going to be pushing the water dalet amis. That's also carrying, and for usher and it's usher. So the Gemara answers, we didn't make a issur of koycha in the karmelis. We had this a bunch of blood ago. Also, that indirect pushing of something in a karmelis is not a problem. Right, so I don't know if that means we have to wait to Erevin to just figure it out. Does that mean you're allowed to kick a stone in the street on Shabbos if there's no Erev? Because that's koicha, right? Maybe not. Maybe that's not.
That's not a karmel. Is it karmel?
What about when it's raining outside?
Right? Oh, very good, Perek. So what's with rain? So we said rain when it rains on your hat, right? Or rains on your suit. So Perek, that's what you're asking, Perek, right?
No, because there's not enough for the shit.
What's he asking?
We just said that you can't get out of the mikvah or water because you're going to have water on you or you're going to carry. So what about walking in the rain?
Okay, good.
Right, it's a good question.
Yeah.
No, I said a place.
Why I don't go to shul when it's raining?
That's right. I was just going to
There you
say.
go.
I mean,
But-
obviously you're allowed to because you're allowed to go to shul when it rains.
Yeah, yes, that's which parents is looking for a way out. Don't.
No, I understand that, and those what I'm saying. So that's good for him. But I'm saying, but
Some
obviously you're
people are
allowed to.
machmir. Some people are machmir not to go even when it's not raining. Gezeira Shema, when it rains, you'll go.
Right. So, what do you call it? The poskim say that rainwater you can care less about. Meaning, when you went into the water, you wanted to get wet. So therefore, that's considered chashuv, right? But when you just get rained on, you obviously don't want that rainwater there. So therefore, it's not a problem, right? The kash is better than the teretz. Fine. Okay, weiter. So, Amar Abayi, Tamer of Yehuda, Tit shall gabi ragloi mekancha bekarka vein mekancha bekoisa. So let's say, so you're walking. This is a real country Gemara, right? You're walking and you got mud on your feet. So then you're allowed to wipe your foot on the ground. Vein mekancha bekoisa. You can't wipe it on the wall. Amar Rava, my time bekoisa loy mishum demischazik kebayna. Because if you wipe mud on a wall, it looks like you're building onto the wall because you're putting mud on the wall. Habinin chaklahu. That's a garbage binyan. A chakla means like a poor person. Nobody's going to put mud. That's not what you normally build it. So what's the problem? Elamarava says the other way around. You're allowed to wipe your foot on the kaisel, but not on the karka. Because perhaps you're going to come to smooth out the ground. Fine. Itmar Marbre de Ravina Omar Echad Osir. They're both osir. Papa Omar Echad Mutter. They're both mutter. You can do it either on the wall or on the ground. So Lamabre de Ravina, but my mekanchila. So according to Mabre de Ravina, who says they're both osir, what are you wiping it on? Mekanchila bekaira. You're going to do it onto a beam, right? Because therefore you're not going to be smoothing out the ground, and nobody's going to think that you're building. Fine. Amar Rava leisiv inish apume delechya. Dilma megandrele chevetz vasilasi. A person shouldn't sit by the edge of the eruv, a pume de lechi, on the mouth of the lechi, right? Because then you're right on the edge of the eruv. Then whatever you're holding is going to fall and go out of the eruv, and then dilma megandrele chevetz, it's gonna roll out. Vasilasi, you're going to come to carry it and bring it in. Fine, that's another din. V'amar Rava loy litzadet inish kuva. A person should not make a barrel go back and forth. Right? You have a barrel on the ground. You shouldn't push it back and forth because then you might come to be smoothing out the ground again. We had this before a bunch ago. You should not take like a shmata and put it into the mouth of a barrel, right? Right, to act as a stopper. Because since this thing is soft, then it's going to get full of wine or whatever it is, so then you're going to end up squeezing it. So, and squeezing is an issa deraisa. So that's another takana. Amar Rav Kahana, Titchal Gabi Big Doy. This is very negay right here, this sugya. It's a shtickle, it's not a confusing to understand, it's just confusing what the practical is. Right, so you have mud that gets on your beged. I don't know if for me this is a weekly occurrence. It doesn't necessarily mean tit, but it means any food or whatever it is that gets on your clothing. So you're allowed to rub it from the inside, meaning let's say it falls on your jacket. Right? Let's say it falls on your jacket. Right? So you're allowed to go inside the jacket and rub it so that the stain gets removed, but you're not allowed to do it mibachut. So meisvei titcha gabi manaloi. If you have tit that's on your shoe, migaroi begav stocking, you're allowed to scrape it with the back of a knife. And it's on your clothing, then you're allowed to even scrape it with your fingernails. As long as you don't rub it. You don't rub the clothing. Because if you rub it, it looks like you're trying to do laundry. Right? But you are allowed to scrape it off. My lav shalei kaskis cloud it sounds like you're not allowed to scrub anything at all. And therefore it's a stira. Because we just said before that you're allowed to do it on the inside. Here we're saying you're not allowed to do it at all. It means that you're not allowed to do it on the outside. You have to do it from the inside. Right? So okay, that's it. So basically what happened, what the bottom line is, you get a stain on your shirt or your jacket. what can you do to get rid of it? So this is the way we paskin, that you can scrub the inside of your clothing, but you cannot scrub the outside of your clothing. Then you have a different issue, and this is why we pretty much don't do any stain. You don't do anything in the stain, because let's say you drop cholent. Let's say you drop cholent on, I'm using that phone. Let's say you drop cholent. You can hold it up. All right. We need the light. All right, sorry. Let's say you drop cholent on your shirt or your jacket, and you want to get rid of it, right? You want to get rid of it. So the problem is it's typhon, because this thing is dried on you, right?
I don't know.
So when you grind it up, when you scrape it off, so what's going to happen? You're going to make it into little crumbs. So now you just ground it up. So that's why any stains that are on your shirt and clothing or whatever it is, you're not allowed to scrape off. So you got what I'm saying? Anybody understand what I'm saying? Is the item there?
Yeah.
Your
Yes, I'm saying,
intent,
yes.
It happened to me today, Reb Yaakov. What you just said, Mamish, happened to me.
but you have no
Yeah. Right. Okay, so that's what it is. That's why Lamaisa we passed him that you're not allowed to do it. Yeah. Fine. Okay, so you're allowed to scrape, right? If something goes on your shoe, so you can scrape any mud from on a new shoe of a lo yoshin, not on an old shoe. Why not? Now we're on a base, so why not? Because we're afraid that you're gonna scrape off some of the shoe also. So then what can you do with it? What can you do? I'm sorry, did I say it the other way around? Did I say it backwards? I said it wrong, I think. Hold on. No, you're right. No, you're allowed to do a new shoe and not an old shoe. But what are you allowed to do the new shoe with? And you're allowed to do it with the back of a knife. We should erase what you said from what Rapia said, which he said, you're not allowed to scrape mud off, not from a new shoe and not from an old shoe. The lo yosef is ragloi, shemen, and you cannot, and now, okay, so that's the end of that. Then he says another thing. The lo yosef is ragloi, shemen, you cannot smear your foot with oil when it's inside the shoe, a sandal, or when it's inside a sandal. You can put oil on your foot and then put it inside the shoe or the sandal. And you can put your oil on your whole body and then roll around on some sort of leather pad or something. But we're not chayshish that you're going to be working in the leather, right? So the reason why you can't put on the oil when it's in your shoe, to me, it sounds crazy to do that, right? But the reason that you can't do that is because it's going to end up working the shoe. Since it's going to be working the shoe, working the leather, the oil into the leather of the shoe, sort of like a baseball glove, right? You get that baseball glove oil to work in the leather. So we're afraid that that's going to happen when you do it with your shoes on. But if you do it when your shoe is off, even though you're going to put the oil into the shoe, it's still okay, right?
You're allowed to spray on suntan lotion on Shabbos?
Oh, so exactly. Very good. Thank you. So you see from this clear that Gemara has no issue with putting oil onto your body on Shabbos, which is true. I think you ask Rav of Klal Yisrael, they think you're being over Mamash Yisurim Gemurim. There's nothing. Oil is porous. Not porous. How do you call it? It pours. It pours.
Pourable.
Pourable. There's a word for it. It's viscous. No? Viscous? Is viscous the right thing? The opposite of viscous.
Even if it's aerosol?
Why not? Yeah, aerosol, that's a different issue. That's a different issue. Yeah, even if it's aerosol. Yeah. So aerosol is not an issue, but and to spray suntan lotion is fine. The only lotion.
What about the spray foam?
Spray foam?
Yeah.
Foam, I would say it's as long as it's liquidy and it runs and it's not thick.
It's not though. It's foam. You have to rub it in to make it not foam.
Yeah, but I don't know if foam. I don't know exactly what is foam considered. Is foam considered something thick?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Okay, so then you can't do it. But if it pours, basically if it pours. Same thing is with soap, liquid soap, right? This is a big shot with Corona. What's the name of that stuff that everybody uses? Purell. So Purell is very thick. Purell is very thick. So Ramesh has a tshuva about soap. I think a lot of these bathroom soaps that they have are very thick, but dishwashing soap, I think, is liquidy enough, right? You turn over the dishwashing thing and it pours very easily. So therefore, you would be able to use that. If you're nervous, water it down a little bit. But whatever it is, oil, baby oil. Get this question a lot. Can I put on baby oil on Shabbos? Why not? Baby oil is it pours very easily. Now maybe refuah issue. That's a different story, right? But this is not refuah. This you're just doing it to feel good, which is fine, right? So
But
again, we're not worried. Yeah.
If I'm wearing a leather wristband watch, that would be usher though.
To put it on your wrist.
If I'm gonna spray my arms with lotion and I'm wearing
Well, I don't know. Is lotion gonna improve leather? Maybe only oil will improve leather. No?
I don't know. They use a lot of chemicals and tanning.
No one's fixing their baseball mitts with suntan with SPF 50.
No, it doesn't matter.
Listen, you have to
they
find
don't
out.
usually do it with oil necessarily either. But the point is, if it will do something to the leather, then it's going to be ma'abed.
Right. No, I hear that. I hear you got to find out, Taka, if it's going to be an issue. If it's something that would improve the leather, then you shouldn't put it on with 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I'm going to right. This that we say is that you're allowed to put it on. That's where it was that you're going to polish it. Right. But if your real kavanah is that you should be working the leather, then of course it's going to be also for you. So the Gemara says, of course it's pashut. And even tichtuch, even if you're just rubbing it on, there's anybody that's going to allow you to rub oil with kavana onto leather on Shabbos? It's only if you use the amount of oil, a shear of oil, that would be normally used to be mitzachtach, right? To polish it. But if you'd use enough oil, that's the amount of oil that somebody would normally work the leather, then it would be usher. Fine. So that's Tarabana. Lo yetza katan b'minol gadol. This next one is also a summer one, because can you go outside with slippers? Yeah, I mean not slippers, slides and Crocs and all that. So it comes from this Gemara. Lo yetza katan b'minol gadol. A katan cannot go out with a large shoe, right? Because we're afraid it's going to slip right off. But a child can go out with a large coat. That's okay because we're not afraid it's going to fall off. But let's say to Isha minol merufad, a woman can go out with a shoe that's torn, and she can't do chalitza with it either, right? Now, of course, the reason why we're afraid a woman to go out with a torn shoe is people are going to laugh at her and she's going to take it off, right? And the reason why you can't do chalitza is because it's not called a legitimate shoe, because most women would not wear a broken, torn shoe. But if she did do the chalitza, and the chalitza sheira. Right? And you're not allowed to go out with a brand new shoe either. Right? Now, I never heard of anybody really being makbid on this, but I think it's because of the Gemara Vaita. Beis minol amru. What type of shoe we're talking about? Minol shal isha. We're talking about a woman's shoe, right? So because we're afraid that the woman is not going to fit her properly, and she's going to take it off. This is why I think people are not makbid on this, because that's only talking about where you didn't use it for at least an hour before Shabbos. But if you went out already on Shabbos, then it's mutter. Fine. This is another interesting one. Can you put your shoes into a shoe tree on Shabbos? Right. That comes from this Gemara. Right. So shamtin minol me'al gabi amos. But I mean, this Gemara is not exactly that. So when they create the shoe, so they put it on top of like a shoe, what do you call it? The shoe tree, right? When they make the shoe. So now they never took the shoe off the shoe tree. So you're allowed to take it off on Shabbos. The Gemara says, Shaimtin minon me'al gabi amos, you're allowed shaimtin from the word shmita, you slide it off. That you're allowed to do. We have another bracket that you're not allowed to. So it's a stila, like Kasha or Rabbi Lezer or Rabbanon. One is Rabbi Lezer, one is Rabbanon. The Tanan minol shal gabi amos. If you have a shoe that's on top of this shoe tree, Rabbi Lezer matar. Rabbi Lezer says that it's tar, meaning it can't become tameh yet, because it's not considered a kli until it comes off of the shoe tree, and since it's still on there, it's not considered finished. So therefore, it can't become tameh. But Chum say that it is tameh because it's considered a complete shoe. So that would be the same thing here. If you hold that it's a complete shoe, that it could become tameh, so therefore it's not Muktza. Take it right off. But if you hold that it cannot become tameh, so it's not a shoe yet, so it's Muktza. Right, so this fits according to Rava. He says it's something that's also, then whether you use it for your guf or the place, meaning whether you need the actual muksa or the place, it's mutter, then it works. That you're allowed to move muksa for when you need the actual thing. But if you just need the place, it's also what are you going to say? Right, because you're going to end up moving the shoehorn, which is muksa, and you're not allowed to move it only if you need the actual shoehorn, not if you need something else. So it's talking about where it's on there very loose, so therefore you could just slide it right off. The Tanya of Yehuda, mutter, it's mutter. Time of the rafui, it's only because it's loose, but if it wasn't loose, then it would be asur. Then we go the other way. That's good according to Abaye. That's something that's melachtai le'isr, which is this shoe tree, because there's nothing mutter about it, because you're not allowed to make shoes on Shabbos. The Torah Gufay mutter. If you need it itself, then it's mutter to move it. The Torah Makame also for its place is also sharper, then it works. Whether you need the actual muksa or you just need the place where it is, it's mutter. Why do you have to say that it's talking about specifically where this thing is loose, even if it's not loose? So the Gemara answers, Ahid Rabbi Yehuda. That's that Rabbi Yehuda is the name of Rabbi Lazar. The Tani Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Rabbi Lazar, Hayarafi Mutter. He's saying that it's going in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. So Mamela and Rabbi Yehuda, Mishum Rabbi Lazar, Hayarafi Mutter. If it's loose, it's Mutter. So it's only going, when it says Rafi, it's only going according to that opinion. Right? Hadran Allah, Toilin. Okay, let's just do the next bunch of lines too, because we have to do a little extra, because this week was a complicated week to get to keep up to date. Anyway, so yes, the next Mishna continues with Muktza. Neitel Adam Espenoi. This is the word. This is the Perek that talks about these Mishnayos here talk about buses, right? Are you allowed to move something even though there's Muktza on it, right? So if you're holding your kid and the kid has a stone, so essentially you're basically moving a stone, which is muksa, but you're moving your kid, right? So you're allowed to take your son, and even if he has a stone in his hand, and a basket of and there's a stone in it, and you're allowed to move truma tameh with tahor. Right? Truma tameh is muksuk, obviously, because it can't be eaten on Shabbos, and you can move with tahor. And with chulin too. Rabbi Yehuda that's a different din. That you're even allowed to take out from a mixture. If there's a mixture of truma that's truma that's tameh, 1 in 100, you're allowed to remove it. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. That has nothing to do with the rest of this Mishnah. But basically, this Mishnah is saying that if you have a basis, l'davar heter and l'davar iser, you're allowed to move it. Meaning, to move the child is heter. The stone is aser. So the child is obviously worth more than the stone. So therefore, you're allowed to move the child, even though you're moving the stone. Same thing with the basket. The basket's worth more than the stone. Right, so Amar Rava, Haiti Tinok Chai, the kiss Tali B'Tzavari. You're allowed to move a Tinok that's alive, and there's a kiss hanging, and there's a wallet hanging from his neck. I'm sorry. Amar Rava, Haiti Tinok Chai, the kiss Tali B'Tzavari, Chayev Mishum Kiss. You're Chayev for carrying the wallet. Right, but not because of the baby, right? Because the baby's alive. We know the rule is chaynos yisasme. Something alive carries itself. You're not going to be chayev that, right? But you're chayev for the wallet that's hanging from his neck. Tinok mace, if the tinok is mace, the kiss talulei b'tzavari, and the wallet's hanging on his neck, then potter, then you are potter. Okay, well, obviously the tinok mace is the issue. So you're going to be, because that is considered carrying, but on the kiss, it's not going to be, you're not going to be chayav on that, right? Which we'll see why that is in a minute. Yeah. So the Gemara says, why don't you? Did I skip something?
Yeah,
the kiss. Yeah. Sorry, skip. Kiss taler b'tzavari potter. Tinok chay ubekiss taler b'tzavari chayav mishum kiss. Where you chayav the kiss. That's it, right? V'lechayim nam mishum tinok. Why are you chayav mishum tinok? Rabbi Karam Nasan Tzvirulei Yodav Karam Nasan Damar Chaynos. Yes, that's like we said. something alive carries itself, so you're not going to be usher. But levato kiss legabi tinuk. Why don't we say that the wallet should be bottled to the tinuk? If you're carrying somebody alive on a bed, so then you're going to be potter even on the bed. That the mita is tuffle, right? The mita is secondary to the person. So the Gemara says mita legabi chaim avatile. A bed is bottled to the person. Kiss legabi tinuk loy mevatile, but you're not being mevatel a kiss, a wallet to the kid's neck, right? So the Gemara says tinuk meis a kiss talib tzavari potter. If it's dead, the baby's dead, and there's a wallet, then you're going to be potter on the kiss. For the chaim mishum tinuk, why are you chaim to tinuk? Rav Shimon really the amar kol malacha chains ruchel legufa potter aleh, because he holds like Reb Shimon that says that any malacha that's not, you don't need it for itself is potter, right? We haven't had that in a while, right? So carrying out a mace for the mace to bury it, that would be a need. But just moving the mace away is not real. Yeah?
Could you take a minute and explain this? I don't know these halachas. I don't understand it. This thing with the lachta, you put a siddur on the lachta. The lachta costs you $5,000. Siddur costs you $3. What's siddur more valuable than the lachta?
Yes, that's an excellent question. Tomorrow's daf, Bez Hashem, because the Gemara, the main Gemara with that is tomorrow. But to answer your question very quickly, pshat is that for something that's a tzarech for Shabbos, gets a chashivos. Any tzarech for davening and for Shabbos trumps everything. I hate to use that word.
You have 65 different siddurim in the house, and you only have one lachta. So how's that siddur become so chashuv?
Right. So really, the siddur is not as pashut. Right. The siddur is not as pashut. Something like challah, though, or wine, that's a real tzarech of Shabbos. That is more of a thing. Anyway, so it's saying here it's saying that the reason why you putter on the dead kid is because it's klishim it's because Reb Shimon, who holds that malach shein through l'gufa is putter left. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we'll stop here. We'll start that over again because we did it very quickly. Right. I'm sorry for all the Michigan over here. All right. A good talk.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yaakov, I'm walking to shul with Shmuel, well, not really shul, but out from Minyonim. Landau, what's up?
I want to hear what you have to say.
I know, but you got to mute yourself because it's causing feedback. Anyhow, he tells me this halacha with the water out of the mikvah. I thought he was out of his mind.
What do you mean? Which halacha with the water with the mikvah?
He said there's three things you got to be nervous about with the mikvah if you go to the mikvah on Shabbos. One, it can't be hot. The other is schita. And the third one is you may carry the liquid when you get out of the mikvah.
Oh, and you told him that he didn't know it was today's daf?
I had no idea it was today's daf. We're walking to shul this morning, and he told me this halacha. His Rosh Hashiva gave a shir on it.
That's gewaldig, Perek.
I called in the middle. I said, Shmuel, Moifis, it's today's daf. You were telling me it's today's daf.
That's very good. All right. We had some action up here today. A 6-year-old took a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old to the forest and disappeared for a couple hours.
Oh my God! Really?
So they called that solo or whatever. And, some kids found them. They were talking in the forest.
Wow.
Your bungalow colony?
Yes, in our bungalow colony. Yeah. Great, right? A bunch of kids found them. They went out with groups. They went out in groups, and they took cell phones. Everybody took cell phones with them. So then the shiloh was like this. So then once they found them, so the word went out they found them. Can they bring their cell phones back in, or they leave them all out in the forest? Right?
If you lose money, isn't it? If you're going to lose a significant amount of money.
Yeah, but these are not Hatzalah guys.
No, I'm saying a regular person. They're going to lose their $800 phone.
No, they'll go back and get